Good morning. Welcome to Larkspur Christian Church. I'm Richard Garst, retired pastor. We're bringing you the message this morning. We'd like to begin with our scripture lesson for today. It comes from John 15, verses 1 through 8. It reads, I am the true vine, and my Father is the gardener. He cuts off every branch in me that bears no fruit, while every branch that does bear fruit, he prunes, so that it will be even more fruitful. You are already clean because of the word I have spoken to you. Remain in me, and I will remain in you. No branch can bear fruit by itself. It must remain in the vine. Neither can you bear fruit unless you remain in me. I am the vine, and you are the branches. If a man remains in me, and I in him, he will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. If anyone does not remain in me, he is like a branch that is thrown away and withers. Such branches are picked up, thrown into the fire, and burned. If you remain in me, and my words remain in you, ask whatever you wish, and it will be given you. This is to my Father's glory, that you bear much fruit, showing yourselves to be my disciples. And so ends the word for the day. So how connected are you? It helps to have connections. You have heard it said, it's not what you know, but who you know that often makes a difference. In this competitive world, it's often difficult to get ahead, to get the job you want, or obtain whatever it is you're seeking. It does pay to be connected. So if you don't have connections, then it's important to make connections. And so today I want to ask you this important question. How connected are you? Of course, today, if you ask someone the question about being connected, they'll probably think in terms of the social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Snapchat, and I don't know what else is out there. This is a new era, a new generation. But being connected has taken on a whole new meaning. One woman said that her new high-speed computer was in the shop for her repair. Her son was forced to work on an older model they still had with an obsolete black and white printer. Mom, he complained to her one day, this is like we're living way back in the 20th century. What? Really? Back in the 20th century? Well, I guess this is the 21st century. I know I'm old, but I still liked it when it was much simpler and things moved at a little slower pace. My cell phone is off and it's in my dresser. At 85, I've decided I refuse to let the cell phone control my life. There were a group of preschoolers, 3, 4-year-olds, were sitting in a circle with their teacher. She was going around the room in a circle, asking each of them a question. Davy, what noise does a cow make? That it goes moo. Very good. Alice, what noise does a cat make? Goes meow. Very good. Jamie, what sound does a lamb make? Bah. Bobby, what sound does a pig make? Oink, oink, he said. Jennifer, what sound does a mouse make? Click, click. Well, I guess a computer mouse might go click. The question, are you connected, means different things to different people. However, there is a danger with electronic connectedness. Despite all the hype about being connected through the internet, a number of studies now show that this technology is actually disconnecting many people from those around them. Let me give you a quick example. I was recently talking with an Ironwood school teacher, a man that I started teaching there with back in 1986 when the school first started. He's still there, 38 years later. He must be the godfather there. I asked him, so what about the students today? He said, students haven't changed. They're the same today as they were when you were here. The difference is in the classroom. Back then when you were here, kids came into the classroom, they socialized, they talked with one another, and you had to say, the bell has rung, take your seats, it's time to start class. Today, they come in, they don't socialize, they don't communicate, they just take their seats, sit down, get out their cell phones. How sad. And then he went on to add, and he said, I'm not allowed to do anything about it. Staying connected with people verbally, close up, one on one, friends and others. This is what gives our life meaning. Take Facebook, for example. I've heard that many people say they have swarms of friends on Facebook, perhaps even in the hundreds, 400, 500, more. But you know what? Friending on Facebook is not the same thing as being a personal friend. I think the internet has distanced and distracted many people from each other. One impact is that lonely people have no one to turn to during hard times. According to some studies, the average American today has only about a third as many friends as they had 30 years ago. Well, according to recent research, many people have no close confidence at all. We are becoming a disconnected society, and that in itself is creating new problems. This is troubling because staying connected is important to our health and our general well being. Researchers have concluded that social networks and close family ties can help protect against disease and premature death. So stay connected. Studies say you'll be healthier. The effects of social isolation can also cause many emotional issues. One study suggests that social isolation is, in part, responsible for the dramatic rise in suicides. In studying the lives of many people who have died of suicide, there are some common characteristics. They were single, living alone, unemployed, and very, very few close friends. In other words, they were socially isolated and they were now disconnected. You know, some of you may be familiar with the Howard Hughes story. Long ago, he was said at one time to be the richest man in our country, and all he ever wanted was more. Even though he was the richest, he wanted more money, more fame, more pleasure, more thrills, more power over politicians, just more, more, more. It's all he wanted. He thought having more would bring him true satisfaction in life, but history shows otherwise. He became very neurotic, a heavy cocaine user, and eventually a recluse, totally isolating himself from other humans. He concluded his life, they say he was totally emaciated, colorless, had a sunken chest, and looked grotesque. At 6'4", he weighed only 90 pounds. With all his money and power, he died a very miserable, lonely man. When a partner's spouse dies, their risk of illness or death actually skyrockets for that first year. Retirement, well, that also changes social networks and can be very stressful. The point is, it's very important at any age to stay connected. You have a belly button. You came into this world being connected to someone, so you need to stay connected to someone. But of course, the most important connection of all is to Christ. In our lesson for today, in the gospel, Christ says to us, I am the vine and you are the branches. If you remain in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit. And apart from me, you can do nothing. If you remain in me and my words remain in you, ask whatever you wish and it will be done to you. This is to my Father's glory, that you bear much fruit. The fruit that he wants us most of all to bear: kindness, and compassion. We need to show ourselves to be Christ's disciples. I am the vine, you are the branches. Here is where staying connected is most vital. Christianity has two central foci: staying connected to our family and to others, and two, staying connected to God. And without these, we are not whole people. When we lose our connectedness to God, we lose our heart and our soul. Jesus said, "What good is it for someone to gain the whole world, yet forfeit their soul?" That's in Mark 8, verse 36. Lose your connectedness to God, and nothing else you accomplish will have any real meaning. Lose your connectedness to God, and you will lose the meaning to life. You know, back in the days of the Cold War, Russia, a woman by the name of Svetlana Stalin, who was the daughter of the former Soviet dictator Joseph Stalin. Joseph Stalin died in 1953. Well, Svetlana, his daughter, shocked the world by immigrating to the United States in 1967. She was seeking a new life. She explained her change of allegiance this way. She said, "I found it was impossible to exist without God in my heart." He's right. It is impossible to exist as a full human being without God in our heart. So I ask again, how connected are you to Christ? Now, it's important to note that if we lose our connection to God, it is not God's doing. Let me repeat that. If we lose that connectedness, it is not God's doing, because God's love for us is everlasting and unconditional. If it's lost, that's on us. You know, many years ago, some of you may well remember, you're at my age, popular radio Bible teacher by the name of Reverend J. Vernon McGee. This was back in the 50s and the 60s. He once told about a little piece of wood that he kept on his desk. He explained that he got this piece of wood from a vineyard. This small piece of wood consisted of a section of the grapevine out of which grew a small branch. The owner of the vineyard told McGee that if two people were to have a tug of war with this section of vine, it will break, but it will not break at the point where the branch connects with the vine. It'll break somewhere within the small branch. The place on the grapevine where the vine and the branch are joined together is the vine's strongest point. This is unlike that about any other wooden structure. If you pull on a branch that goes into a tree, it will most likely break at the trunk of the tree, because in a tree, that's the weakest point, but not in a grapevine. That's the strongest point. You know, it's no wonder that Christ used the analogy of the vine and its branches to explain his relationship to us. The strongest place on the grapevine is where the branches are attached to the vine. In other words, we don't need to worry that our connectedness to Christ will be broken, at least not from Christ's side of things. That connection is a powerful one. As I said before, if it breaks, that's on us. I'd like to share a story with you told by author Max Lucado. He tells about a friend of his who worked at a pharmacy while he was attending college. This man's name was Steve. His primary job was a delivery boy, delivery prescriptions, other medical supplies, and things that the pharmacy sold to the neighborhood. Well, one of his customers was a woman. She was in her 70s. She lived alone in a small apartment in a building that was close to the pharmacy. He would deliver a large jug of water to this woman twice a week. Receive the payment, thank the woman, and then leave. Well, over the weeks, Steve grew puzzled. He learned that the woman did not use any other source of water except for flushing the toilet. The water was already in the apartment, and maybe mopping floors, that type of thing. She relied on his delivery for all of her washing, bathing, cooking, and drinking needs. Now, She could have used the city water. In fact, it would have been much cheaper. And she was not a wealthy woman. Why didn't she choose the less expensive city water? Maybe you've figured it out. You see, the city sent only water. They didn't send a person. His visits were how she was staying connected to someone. And so she was willing to pay more for her water. We know there are people in our community who are very lonely. And I'm not just talking about the homeless out there. Children, teenagers, adults of all ages, many seniors somehow have become disconnected. You know, I find it very interesting. When God wanted to save the world, God sent a person, Jesus, his son. And Christ says to us, if you want to find life, be connected to me. I will never leave you nor forsake you. Because where you and I are connected to him, well, that is the strongest place on the vine. I would like to close with reading a part of a blog that a prisoner that I visit wrote recently. His father had just passed away, although he really didn't know his father anymore. At age 16, his father basically disowned him, and he hadn't seen his father for 46 years. But he got word in prison that his father had passed away, but no contacts with anybody was given that he could make to try to reconnect. He knows he has two sisters, and that's it. But here's something he wrote as part of his blog, and I'll close with this. He wrote, my advice to anyone before it's too late is to become genuinely interested in people and cultivate them. Call them, send them letters, cards, emails. Be there for them. Help them out. Spend time with them. Care about them. And if you don't have anyone, just volunteer at any organization, church, or food bank. There is always someone out there whose way is way worse off than you are. It is true. There are a lot of lonely people out there who can use your company. This man is 62. He's been in prison since age 16. Amen.